I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how to write a literary research essay. I know it can be intimidating to write one at first. However, knowing a little bit about how to approach this sort of assignment might make it a little less intimidating and a little bit easier for you. Now, quick warning, this is not a professional video, so I might stumble across my words a little bit, and that's okay. Hopefully, the information I present to you here is a little helpful. In any case, when you write a literary essay, you will have to use MLA style. I've noticed that a few of you have been using APA style in some of the forums and some of the assignments in the course. Please make sure to use MLA style. And just a quick, brief formatting workshop for you, I guess background for you. With MLA, you put your last name and page number in the upper right-hand corner. Then you put your name on the upper left-hand corner only for the first page. You put the course, you put your professor's name, and then you put the date. After that, you put your title, but it isn't bolded, okay? And then the rest of the essay is double spaced with the last name page number here. And then, oh, and this is a longer quotation. So with longer quotations, generally you want to do this that's 4 sentences or longer. And also this person made a little bit of an error. You want to have this double space for longer quotations. Introduce the longer quotations with a colon. Let me scroll down to the works cited list. You call the list, obviously, works cited. And then when you use academic journals, you can use the automatic citation feature, and I will show you how to do that in a moment. But with MLA, you always start with the last name of the author, then the first name, title in quotations. The journal is italicized, and the same way with direct literary works. Last name, first name, title of the work, title of the website, and so on, with the URL following. You need to make sure when you write a literary essay, you need to make sure you actually cite from the work of literature. It seems obvious, but you actually need to use the work of literature in your discussion. All right, let me make sure I have the volume up all the way so you can hear my voice perfectly. All right, so when you approach a literary research essay, your work of literature, your chosen work of literature, plays the starring role in your production. The issue I have seen with students is that sometimes they leave the literary work in the background, and then they talk about everything else, government, psychology, political theories, and so on and so forth, but they don't discuss the work of literature. Definitely you can discuss history, you can discuss philosophy, you can discuss gender issues, but it all must lead to some sort of overall interpretation of a work of literature. All right? So the work of literature plays the starring role, like I said, but everything else you discuss builds toward one singular interpretation of the work. One more quick point. Some of you may have not studied critical lenses or critical theory. It's just basically a way of interpreting a work. So you can look at a work using history, you can look at a work using philosophy, you can look at a work using gender criticism, and so on and so forth. But the critical lens that you're using gives an interpretation of the work. Now, I might have freaked out some people by saying critical lenses. Don't worry about it. You don't need to use the vocabulary. Just know that there are different ways to interpret a work, basically. All right. So let's get back to the actual essay. First of all, obviously, with a literary research paper, you have an introduction, right? So just like an essay that you wrote in English 101, English 110, what have you, you write an introduction that starts with a general comment and you move slowly towards the specific thesis. The specific thesis is an all-encompassing sentence that lets the leader know exactly what you plan to prove. And also remember, you're not a mystery writer. You are similar to a lawyer. You are upfront letting the reader know exactly what you plan to prove in your essay. All right, so how to approach a research literary essay is that, and I'm going to show you how to find sources in a few moments, but the research plays a critical role in the discussion. Of course, the research helps you prove some sort of interpretation of a work. However, the research needs to be brought to the forefront as well, and you use the research to directly prove a point. Sometimes students write the essay first, and then they try to stick in research that sort of aligns with what they're trying to say. Do not do that. The point of a research paper is for you to learn more about the work, for you to learn how to read academic articles, and for you to understand how a work of research helps to build an interpretation of a work of literature. You're defeating all of these points and reasons for you to write this research essay if you put in research as an afterthought. All right? The literature plays the starring role in your production, and then think of the works, the research as the actors that help make the work of literature the stronger and better production, best production you could put on as possible. I don't know if that analogy works or if I just confused you more, but just know the work of literature is important and the research are both important, and the research helps build an interpretation of the work of literature. Okay, so enough with that. So anyway, so you have the thesis statement here. I have it in bold just so you can see it, but generally you do not want the thesis in bold, because your reader will know that this is your thesis statement because it's the bottom last sentence of your opening paragraph. So let's look at this. So we're writing about Mark Twain, right? And we're writing about what is man. And note that he does, or she does, introduce what is man and the author in the introduction. You need to let the reader know exactly what you plan to discuss in your introduction, all right? Because your reader won't know what you're discussing unless you tell them, right? Obviously, sometimes students forget to let me know what reading they're using, and so I become confused. So you definitely want to let your professor know what reading you are using in your introduction. All right, so let's take a look at this thesis statement. Twain's darker existentialist works illustrate his duality between performing as Mark Twain and being Samuel Clemens, and makes one wonder if he believed humanity is as depressing as his characters portray. Lots going on here. And I'm not expecting something so philosophical from you, but I do want to let you know that your thesis statement isn't just giving me the plot of your work. It is actually giving me some sort of deeper meaning towards the work of literature, all right? And the way you find this deeper meaning is through research, all right? So I wanted to show you a few examples of citations. These are not from Twain, these are from the student's research. So look at this. In his work, title, Michael Cruz, okay, notice that this work is the article title of the journal that you found, and this is letting the reader know who wrote this particular quotation. All right. So let's take this off. Now let's move up a little bit. Here's another author. similarity. So this is basically similar to what Michael Kruse wrote, obviously. And this is another author. So this one has a page number. So you write the author's name, and then you introduce the quotation, and then you have the page number. Note, there isn't a year here because you are citing MLA style, not APA. Here's another example. All right. So this time, the writer introduces the author first and then brings in the article title. You don't always need to bring in the article title, right? You can sometimes just bring in the author, and that's fine as well. But you do need to let the reader know who the author of the article is. And also, you're not always going to have a page number. So if you don't have a page number, you don't have to include it in the in-text citation. All right, let's go down a little further. Some of this is highlighted because I just wanted to show you a couple of things. So this is a transition. So at the top of your paragraphs, you want to make sure you include transitions if you can remember. This right here, I wanted to point this out to you because the writer is actually using text from the literature as well to prove the point. So that's what my expectation is as well. I want you to actually introduce and use the text within your discussion to help you prove your point. And these little ellipsis points just show that the writer took out some wording from the text. All right. You don't need to put ellipsis in the beginning and end of a quotation, but if you take out something in the middle, you want to use an ellipsis point. All right, so here's another quotation and another one. So notice that the writer uses a lot of quotations in the research paper. And let me show you just how often each of the sources are used. So let me type in Kruse. See how actively the writer uses this source, all right? You need to actually actively use each of your sources in your discussion. Also, when you cite an author and you have multiple works by the same author, you need to make sure it's clear within your essay and in your citation list which writing from the author used, the different writings, all right? Here's another source. All right, so let me exit out of here. And now I'm going to pull up how to obtain some of the research. So when you enter in the library databases, that is the best resource for you to look for sources for your research paper. There's a few helpful databases. First, I would say, let's see if I can find it. Academic Search Premier is a great one. Another good one would be EBSCO, Database Suite. Another one is ProQuest. That's a useful one as well, right here. But also for literature, the best one for me, the one where I find the most sources, is JSTOR. All right? The reason why is because it houses a lot of literary articles, and it just is an easier way for you to find sources. So I'm going to go back here, all right, and I want to show you a source that I'm going to look up. Let's look up this work, Good News in What is Man, Michael Kruse. So let's go back, and let's say we want to find a source that deals with what is man. All right, so first let's pull up JSTOR, and I already have it pulled up here. This is what JSTOR looks like. Generally, though, you want to click on Advanced Search because remember, using What is Man and Mark Twain. So there's actually two search options there. So let's say, I'll go back here and go to Advanced Search. So let's say Mark Twain and what's odd about this is that you probably are going to pull up a ton of resources on this. A lot of students tell me they can't find sources on a literary work. I often find that hard to believe because almost everything that you're going to read as an undergrad has been written about a lot in research. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on Submit Advanced Research. This is what you'll see. Even though this seems to be a less well-known work by Mark Twain, I see 378 results. And looky here. The first journal article is the one that we saw in the paper, Mark Twain and the Determinism of What is Man. So let's pull that up. All right, it's going to take a few seconds. And there it is, right? Now, I know that these can be difficult to read. And so one of the ways that I think is the most useful way to handle literary articles is you read the first paragraph, right? It gives you a good idea of what the article is about, and then you go to the very end of the article and you read the conclusion. All right, so I'm going to pull up the conclusion, or I won't pull up the conclusion here, but definitely read the intro, read the conclusion, decide whether or not this is useful for you. If you find that it is useful for you, then you want to or at least you think it might be useful for you. You don't have to make the determination yet because you're still in the research step for your essay. Told you I was going to stumble across my wording. Anyway, so let's say you are interested in it. You don't know if you're going to use it yet, but you are interested in it. So what I would do is pull up the MLA citation, and it's pretty easy to do. Just click on or find the citation link. And this, you have one in Academic Search Complete, ProQuest, all of these. So you click on Cite This Item, then you locate MLA, you cut and paste it, you put it in a Word document, all right? And then you also put in all of these, or wait, let me do this better, all of this, because you want to make sure you have the ability to go back to this article, right? And then go back to the first paragraph again, cut and paste the first paragraph into that Word document. All right, so you have all your research saved. And the reason why I say this, because as an undergrad and a grad student, I always lost my research. I would find the perfect article and then I would be all excited, and then none of the URLs worked for me. I couldn't find the article and it drove me nuts. Don't be me. Don't make mistakes like me. Save the URLs, save the citations, and put that first paragraph in there so you can make the decision later whether or not you want to use that source. All right? Now, I do want to let you know that you don't always have to use the databases, all right? Unless you're required to do so by your instructor. So here's something, a neat little trick that I've done when using Google, because I'm sure most of you have used Google before, and you notice that when you enter in a author, and let's pretend to do it right now. So let's see, Mark Twain. Let's see, how many articles are we going to pull up? Well, it doesn't even say because there's so many. So let's do Mark Twain, What is Man? Okay, so it should be pulling up. Ooh, 766,000 results. Are you going to be able to go through all those results? I don't think so. So the best way, if you want to use Google, and again, I do think the library databases are so much easier, because if you go back, let's see if we can go back to the original. All right, let me go. Let's see, Submit Advanced Search. Oh, whoopsies. Let's do Mark Twain and then Submit Advanced Search. I apologize, I had it entered. Okay, so there's still a lot of sources, but what you're going to find is that the most relevant sources are at the top. All right, so I told you this was going to be very informal, not exactly professional. So anyway, so let's go back, and instead of using regular Google, you want to use Google Scholar. So basically just enter in, let's say, let's go back here. Just go like this, Google Scholar. And then you're going to be able to pull up Google Scholar, which is, actually a very useful way of searching for sources. Then what you want to do is enter the search terms, but you also want to put in this PDF, because this generally helps you pull up scholarly sources. Then click on search, and you're going to find a bunch of sources here. You're probably not going to be able to pull up the entire source, but let me see if this will pull up. So yeah, some of it you'll be able to pull up, but some of it you won't be able to. So let's look at this one. This is the article actually that we found in the library. Click on that, and you'll notice that you only have part of the source. The reason why is because this comes from JSTOR. JSTOR is a database, but you have to actually purchase access to JSTOR. So what you could do is you go to Google Scholar and you see a source that you like, cut and paste it, and then, cut and paste it, and then go back to JSTOR, click on the title, and then you'll be able to pull up the title in there, and you'll be able to read the entire source, but you'd have to use the library to find it. All right. I hope this helped you a bit. Like I said, this was informal, but, it kind of gives me the feeling like I'm teaching you inside the classroom. And sometimes a lot of this is easier for me to explain through speaking as opposed to writing all my information out. So if you need any help, please contact me through messages or email. Just let me know what class you're in. All right, I hope all of you have a great day, and I'll see you online.